They say you can tell when something's about to go wrong, not from the noise, but from the quiet. That morning, the silence felt heavy. The kind that hums beneath polite conversation and coffee cups. I walked into the meeting early, as I always do. 3 minutes before start time, never late, never rushed. My slides were ready, notes lined up, color-coded, precise. Every number checked twice. I was ready. The room smelled like burnt coffee and printer paper. Screens flickered on, faces appeared, smiles that looked more like masks. I've been in enough of these meetings to know what each smile means. The one that's pretending to be friendly, the one calculating who to agree with, and the one that never quite reaches the eyes. Jason, my manager, stood at the front. His laugh filled the space like he owned it. He always laughs before a meeting, loud and casual, so people remember who's comfortable here and who's not. He caught my eye, and that look passed between us, the polite version of a warning. I smiled back. Small, controlled. That's the game. Being a Black woman in corporate America means walking into every room already auditioning for credibility. You speak with care. You measure your tone, every syllable dressed in calm professionalism. You keep your edges soft enough to be non-threatening, but sharp enough to survive. So I sat down, posture straight, camera on. I smiled just enough to look approachable, not enough to look naive. The kind of balance they never teach you, but you learn if you want to keep your job. The meeting began. Numbers, charts, projections. Jason was in his rhythm, presenting results that sounded impressive, almost too impressive. I listened, taking notes, waiting. I'm good at waiting. Then I saw it. A figure on one of his slides. The Q3 conversion rate. It didn't match what I'd verified last night. Off by 10 points. Not a mistake, a manipulation. I stayed quiet, just for a moment. Let him talk. Let the room absorb his confidence. Then, when it was time, I spoke. Jason, I think there's a small discrepancy on slide 12, I said. Calm. Even respectful. Heads turned. Eyes flicked toward me. The room went still. Not in tension, but in calculation. I could feel them asking the question they always ask when I speak up. Is she sure she wants to do this? Jason's smile didn't move. Oh? Which part, Kendra? The conversion rate, I said. Your slide shows 82%. The verified data from the audit shows 72%. For a moment, nothing. Then that small laugh of his, the kind that's practiced. You might be looking at preliminary numbers, he said. She's very detail-oriented, which is great, but sometimes data can get mixed in transition. Sevens. A few people chuckled softly. The sound of complicity. Inside, I felt that familiar sting, the one you don't let reach your face. The one that tells you this isn't about data anymore. It's about hierarchy, about knowing your place. I smiled back, polite as ever. I'm happy to share the verified data after the call, I said, just to make sure leadership sees the accurate figures. Sevens. There was a small shift around the table. Respect from a few. Worry from others. Everyone pretending not to feel the tension tightening between us. Jason cleared his throat. We'll revisit later, he said quickly. Let's keep things moving. Sevens. He clicked to the next slide, trying to move past it. But truth doesn't disappear just because someone wants to talk louder. I unmuted again. Actually, if I may, sevens. And then it happened. My voice cut out mid-sentence. At first, I thought it was a glitch. I tapped the mic icon. Nothing. Clicked again. Still muted. Jason didn't even look at me. We'll handle those updates offline. Kendra, let's stay on schedule. The conversation flowed around me like I'd never spoken. Their faces went on nodding, listening, agreeing. My screen showed my face in a small box, silent, frozen, still trying to speak into nothing. I sat there, perfectly still, hands folded, posture straight, no emotion, no visible reaction. But inside was the quiet sound of something breaking. Not my confidence, but the illusion that fairness lives in this room. They muted me, but they didn't know. Sevens. I've always had another mic. The moment my mic went dead, time slowed. Not all at once, just enough for me to notice what silence really sounds like when it's forced. It's not quiet. It's heavy. It hums in your chest like a low engine that won't stop running. The others kept talking about projections, partnerships, whatever came next, but their voices blurred into static. The kind that lives between words when people know something wrong just happened, but no one wants to name it. I could still see my reflection in the tiny square on the screen, face lit by the cold blue glow of the monitor. My lips were pressed together, calm, deliberate. I looked, composed, and I was, at least where they could see me. Inside, I felt the sharp heat of humiliation, not because they muted me, but because they wanted everyone else to move on. That's how they do it. They don't raise their voices. They don't have to. They just erase yours. Jason kept speaking, his voice smooth again, confident. He didn't look at me once, but I saw it. That tiny smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth. A flicker. Barely there. A man satisfied with what he thought was control. I noticed everything. The way two colleagues glanced at each other, then quickly back to their screens. The woman in the bottom left corner who bit her lip and looked down, she knew. She just didn't want to be next. And the rest? They stayed neutral, the corporate survival mode. Eyes on slides, hands typing notes no one will ever read. That's the thing about corporate silence. It's not loud, but it's contagious. I took a slow breath. Not to calm down, to think. All right, I whispered under my breath, my mic still muted. Noted. Sevens. It wasn't rage that came next. It was clarity. A click in my mind. That shift from emotion to analysis. The part of me that's been trained to stay observant, even when disrespected. If they wanted silence, I could give them that. But my silence would be measured, intentional, not submissive, strategic. I started watching the meeting like data. Every tone, every body language cue, every lie disguised as a team update. Jason presenting my work like it was his idea. The words, "I led this initiative," rolling off his tongue with ease. My numbers, my insights, my late nights, all dressed up in his PowerPoint template. And yet, I didn't interrupt. Not again. Not here. Because that's what they expect. The strong black woman reaction. The sigh, the tone, the visible frustration they can later call attitude. They train you to fight in ways they can label. Emotional, confrontational, unprofessional. But I learned a different language a long time ago. The language of quiet precision. So I sat there, still as a photograph. Hands folded on the desk, jaw locked, but subtle. Eyes steady, scanning the slides like a surgeon studying an X-ray. Every word he said was another thread I'd use later. Every false number, every name he forgot to credit, every email he said he sent. I was cataloging it all. Someone once told me, they can mute your mic, but they can't mute your receipts. I believed that. The meeting dragged on. Jason kept performing. The others nodded. The rhythm of keyboards clicking became the soundtrack to my patience. I could feel my pulse in my fingertips, but I kept my breathing slow, even practiced. The same breath I take before presenting to executives, before walking into rooms that weren't built for me but needed me to keep functioning. Watch what grows in silence, I murmured. No one heard me, but I did. It was the kind of line that comes from somewhere deeper than ego, from survival. Because this isn't the first time I've been silenced, just the most public, and I know what comes next. Sevens, the over-apologetic Slack message. The, hey, sorry about the technical issue. Tone that's meant to smooth over something that wasn't a glitch. But this time, I'm not smoothing it over. I'll let them think I'm still playing nice. Let them think they've won the moment. Because while they're busy talking, I'm collecting truth. The kind of truth that doesn't need volume, just timing. And when that timing comes, sevens, it won't sound like revenge. It'll sound like correction, like proof, like justice, quietly delivered. The meeting wrapped up with the usual closing line. Great work, team. Jason's voice, still bright, still leading. Everyone began logging off. One by one, their little rectangles disappeared until only mine remained. I stared at the blank screen for a long moment, my reflection floating there in the dark. I didn't feel defeated. I felt awake, muted, maybe for a minute, but silenced? Never. Be honest, what would you do if it was you sitting in that room? Drop your thoughts below. I want to hear you. Sevens. The office always sounds different after dark. The chatter fades. The hum remains, machines breathing where people used to. By 7:30, the last goodbye echoed down the hallway. Doors clicked shut. Laughter dissolved into the elevator's ding. Then nothing. Just me. The glow from my monitor. And the quiet that finally felt like mine again. I wasn't staying late to impress anyone. Those days were over. I was staying because truth needs space, and silence is the cleanest room to build it in. I took a slow sip of coffee, cold by now, bitter in a way that woke me up more than it should. The cursor blinked on an empty email draft, the soft light catching the reflection of my face in the glass wall. I looked calm, controlled. But this wasn't calmness. It was focus. The kind that comes when emotion burns itself down to strategy. Stay quiet. Stay sharp, I whispered. Click. Open folder. Audit reports. Meeting recordings. Timeline logs. The sound of keystrokes filled the room, steady, rhythmic, deliberate. Each click was a decision. Each file a piece of memory they couldn't erase. I replayed the meeting recording, just once. The moment my mic went dead came and went, a small silence in the middle of noise. And there it was. His voice continuing without pause. His smile audible. The part where truth was cut off, cleanly, surgically. I leaned back, eyes half closed, listening to the tone of it. The certainty. You can hear arrogance if you listen long enough. It has a sound, like a man talking faster because he thinks he's already won. I let the video run, then stopped it. No anger, just clarity. Because this wasn't about one meeting. This was a pattern, polished and polite, but a pattern nonetheless. I started building the file. Project Delta, data discrepancies. Sevens, a name that sounded neutral enough for corporate circulation. I dragged in my evidence, the verified audit report, time-stamped emails, data comparisons. Every number backed by proof. Every claim linked to a source. Click. Save. I organized everything in clean folders. No drama. No comments. Just facts. Facts are the quietest kind of power. They don't need to shout to be undeniable. My mind moved like chess. If I send it now, he'll spin it. Say I'm overreacting. Emotional. If I wait, gather more, send it upward, it becomes unarguable. Documentation is my armor. Precision is my voice. The faint ticking of the office clock reminded me how long I'd been here. 8:12 p.m. The city lights outside painted the floor in rectangles of gold and blue. I rubbed my hands together, warming them. The surface of my desk felt cool, smooth, almost reflective. And for a second, I saw not fatigue, but something else in my reflection. Resolve. They thought muting me ended it, I murmured. Let's document everything. Sevens. I started typing again, faster now, not rushed, but decisive. Creating a memo that wasn't angry, just exact. Sevens. Following today's review, I noticed discrepancies between the figures presented and the verified data from last quarter's audit, attaching documentation for alignment. Simple. Professional. The kind of tone that leaves no room for defense or dismissal. I wasn't writing to win. I was writing to record. Because what's documented can't be denied. The air conditioning hummed above me, low and constant. It almost sounded like breath. And I realized this is what control feels like. Not power over others, but mastery over yourself. The anger was gone now, replaced by purpose. This wasn't revenge. It was calibration. Correcting imbalance. Restoring truth. I opened a second window, the email thread with the senior director. Hovered over the Attach Files button. Paused. Not yet. Timing matters. The truth, like light, works best when aimed. I closed the window, exhaled, and sat back. My notebook lay open beside me, a single line written across the top of the page. Sevens. You don't have to shout to be heard. Sevens. It wasn't just a reminder. It was strategy. Somewhere in the quiet, a cleaning cart rolled by, the faint squeak of wheels against tile, the distant sound of running water. Normal life. Ordinary sounds. And yet tonight, they felt symbolic. The cleanup after the noise. I began saving backups, external drive, cloud folder, private email. Each save felt like a heartbeat. Each copy, another layer of security. This is what resilience looks like when it grows up. It's not fiery speeches or slam doors. It's precision, patience, and proof. By the time I shut down my computer, the office was almost dark. Only the emergency exit lights remained, small red glows cutting through the dim. I picked up my bag, slipped the USB into my pocket. My heels clicked softly on the tile as I walked toward the elevator. Each step felt deliberate, measured, free. As the doors slid open, I caught my reflection once more, calm face, steady eyes. And I thought, sevens. They wanted silence. But silence is where I build my evidence, where I sharpen my voice, where truth waits its turn to speak. The elevator doors closed, sealing in the quiet. The plan had already begun. You won't believe what happens next. Hit subscribe so you don't miss it. Sevens. Mornings in this office always start the same. The hiss of the espresso machine, the soft shuffle of heels and polished shoes, laughter that sounds rehearsed, and that particular chill, the one that comes from recycled air and unspoken truths. But today, it feels different, heavier, slower. I walk in right on time, not early, not late, just precise. That's the rhythm I move in now. The fluorescent lights hum faintly above me, a mechanical heartbeat. The glass walls catch every reflection, faces half lit, half hidden. Someone's fixing their hair in the window. Someone else scrolling through emails pretending not to see me walk by. I can smell roasted coffee, cheap perfume, and nerves. The perfect scent of corporate mornings. Jason's already in the conference room, laughing again, that too loud laugh, the one he uses to claim the space before anyone else can. His sleeves rolled just enough to look relaxed. His tie loosened, but deliberate. "Morning. Team," he says as I enter. The word team lands differently when it comes from him. It always has. I nod. Morning. Sevens. Our eyes meet for half a second, polite, empty. He looks away first. I take my seat. Not in the corner, not up front, just center left, close enough to see every screen, far enough to watch every move. The table is cold under my fingertips, polished, sterile. The kind of surface that reflects everything, even what people don't want you to notice. A colleague slides a spreadsheet across the table toward me. "For review." Her tone is neutral. Too neutral. I give a small smile. Got it. Sevens. Her eyes flick away. Guilt wears silence well. The projector hums as it warms up. A white light spills across the screen, waiting for content to fill it. Jason adjusts the HDMI cable, taps the keyboard, clears his throat. Too many gestures for someone at ease. "All right, let's dive in," he says, with that bright, managerial cheer. He's trying too hard to sound normal. And that's how I know he remembers. He remembers yesterday. He remembers the moment the mic went silent and the air turned sharp. Breathe. Watch. Let them talk first, I remind myself. I fold my hands in my lap, feeling the faint texture of my skin against the fabric of my skirt, a small grounding ritual. Control isn't about stillness. It's about choosing what moves. The presentation starts. He's walking through the slides again, the same rhythm, same phrasing. Except now, I can see the tension living in his shoulders, the tightness in the corners of his smile. Team performance continues to exceed expectations, he says, pointing to the same chart as yesterday. Same number. Same lie. But this time, I don't speak. I just look at him. Quietly. Directly. He hesitates mid-sentence. It's small, barely a pause, but everyone feels it. The kind of hesitation that doesn't come from forgetting data, but from feeling watched. Someone coughs. Another shifts in their chair. The small sounds of discomfort fill the air like static. They think I'm quiet, I think. Good. Sevens. I lean back slightly, eyes steady, posture open but unreadable. Every move intentional. Every breath paced. Jason keeps talking, words tumbling faster now, overcompensation disguised as confidence. And as he gestures toward the screen, the reflection of the data chart flashes across the glass wall behind him, mirrored, distorted. False numbers projected onto transparency. It's poetic, in a way. I take a sip of coffee. Bitter. Smooth. The warmth grounds me. Around the table, people nod. The synchronized dance of agreement. But I notice the cracks. One person hesitating before they nod, another biting their lip. Not everyone's pretending well. Truth has a way of leaking, even through forced smiles. I jot something in my notebook. Just one line. Let them perform. I'm the audience today. Sevens. The conversation shifts to upcoming goals. More slides. More polish. But now, every sound, every slide transition, every throat clear, lands different. The silence between his words feels thicker. He feels me listening. Timing is everything, I think, because power doesn't always enter the room with volume. Sometimes it enters quietly, through presence, through patience, through the knowledge that you're holding the kind of truth that doesn't need to announce itself. Jason glances at me again, mid-presentation. I meet his gaze this time, not with anger, but stillness. And in that half-second, something shifts. It's subtle, but it's there. His voice falters. His jaw tightens. He looks away, pretending to check his notes. That's the thing about guilt. It can't hold eye contact for long. The rest of the meeting drifts by. People talk numbers, budgets, timelines. I let it all unfold, recording everything in memory. I'm not collecting receipts anymore. I'm collecting reactions. When the meeting ends, chairs scrape, laptops close. Everyone moves with that practiced corporate grace, smiles, thank yous, fake urgency to leave. Jason lingers by the projector, fiddling with the remote. I walk past him, my steps unhurried. Good presentation, I say quietly. Not praise, just tone. Measured. Even. He looks up, eyes flickering with confusion, unsure if I mean it, unsure if I should. Thanks, he says, voice cracking on the word. I nod once. Then I walk away. The hallway feels cooler than the room. It happened in silence, in the way I didn't flinch, in the way I stayed still while their noise began to sound nervous. Power doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it just waits. And as I step into the elevator, the doors closing around me, I whisper, just to myself, just to remember. Sevens, let them talk. I'll move when the time is right. Sevens. The elevator hums softly, carrying me upward. And with every floor, I feel lighter. Not because I escaped the silence, sevens, but because I've learned how to use it. The office is almost too quiet. That kind of silence that hums, not peaceful, but waiting. Monitors flicker against the glass walls, light pulsing like slow heartbeats. I can hear the faint whir of the vents, the soft click of someone's keyboard 3 rows down, the hollow sound of my own breathing. I sit at my desk, posture steady, hands still, but every movement I make is intentional. Not a single wasted gesture. Not tonight. Not after everything. The office is nearly empty now. The kind of silence that carries weight. Only the hum of the air conditioner and the faint buzz from a forgotten monitor fill the space. Outside the glass wall, city lights blink like Morse code, quiet witnesses to another long night. The scent of burnt coffee lingers in the air, stale but familiar, a reminder of every hour I've stayed late chasing excellence that someone else took credit for. My fingers glide over the mouse. Smooth plastic. Cold. Controlled. I move slow, not hesitant, but precise. The kind of precision that comes from knowing there's no room left for error. Each click feels heavier than the last, like the sound of evidence being loaded, line by line. I open the folder one more time. The report, the charts, the meeting audio. My work. My proof. My silence weaponized into data. Everything is aligned, neat as truth itself, clean columns, sharp edges, perfect timestamps. Each file labeled, cross-checked, airtight. I scroll through the spreadsheet. The numbers glow back at me, steady and loyal, unshaken by the stories that tried to rewrite them. The chart curves upward like a quiet pulse, proof of effort that refused to die in someone else's shadow. The meeting audio sits at the bottom of the list, calm and still. I hover over it. Just seeing that file name steadies my breath. Because it's not just sound, it's history. It's the moment they tried to silence me, captured and preserved, waiting patiently to speak again. Truth doesn't shout. It just stands there, unbothered, waiting for light. And tonight, I am the light. The screen reflects my face, calm, sharp, resolute. There's no anger left, only clarity. Anger burns hot and fast. Clarity burns clean. And in this quiet glow of monitors and justice, I feel something I haven't felt in weeks, control. Not over them, but over myself. My hand rests on the USB drive. The small metallic weight feels colder than it should. 7s, like the final key in a lock I've spent months building. I slide it into the port. The click sounds louder than it should. For a second, I close my eyes. A single inhale. Then an exhale that tastes like resolve. The files transfer, bar inching forward. 7s. Green light flickering in the corner of my vision like a heartbeat. It's methodical, unhurried, like truth itself. Inevitable, once set in motion. I whisper to no one. 7s. Stay quiet, stay sharp. 7s. Because tonight isn't about revenge. It's about precision. It's about alignment. It's about reminding them that silence doesn't mean surrender. It means calculation. And every keystroke I make is one step closer to balance. I exhale. Click. Play. With respect, those numbers don't align with last quarter's data. Fins, my voice. Strong. Calm. Interrupted. Then, 7s. Kendra, we'll take that offline. 7s. Silence. The sound of my mic being cut. I remember that pause, That stunned second when my words died mid-air. They didn't even look sorry. I stopped the playback. The sound of my own breath in the recording lingers in my head, the breath of someone who was learning, in real time, how quiet truth can be when power tries to mute it. I scroll down through the folders again, each file neatly labeled. I color-coded everything, not because I needed order, but because I wanted calm. Blue for reports, red for audio, gold for the final presentation. The palette of discipline, the language of control. No mistakes. Not this time. I plug in the USB drive. Wait for the small white light to blink alive. Transfer. Confirm. Verify. I know exactly how long it'll take. 32 seconds. Enough time for one deep breath and a reminder. They silenced me once. Never again. Sevens. I don't say it out loud. The walls don't need to hear it. The truth already does. The scent of burnt coffee drifts from the break room, bitter, old, but grounding. It mixes with the cold metal smell of the air vents. The kind of scent that reminds you you're awake, you're here, and you're not afraid anymore. My reflection stares back at me from the black screen as the transfer completes. Same eyes, same calm, different fire. Just as I remove the USB, a soft ping breaks the quiet, an incoming message, a Slack notification. Reminder, 9 a.m. team meeting, presentation updates. Sevens, I almost laugh. Updates. That's one way to call it. I glance at the clock. 8:52. 8 minutes until the curtain lifts. 8 minutes until silence has to answer. A colleague passes by. Troy, the junior analyst. He gives me a quick smile, that polite kind, the kind that doesn't ask questions. You staying late again, Kendra?
Sevens, just finishing up,
I say smoothly. He nods, walks off, coffee in hand. I can tell he senses something. People always do, right before a shift they can't name. I look down at the drive in my palm. Small, harmless looking, but I know what's inside it. Proof. Precision. Every word they tried to erase, preserved. Every fact they dismissed, documented. Every interruption, every micro-silencing, now framed in clarity. My mind replays their faces from yesterday. The polite smirks, the forced patience. The boss with that patronizing tilt of his head, like he was giving me grace. Sevens. I remember how I swallowed the urge to react. That choice, restraint, it wasn't weakness. It was strategy. Let them think they're in control. Let them talk first. Then, truth. I press the laptop lid shut. The sound is soft but final, like closing a chapter, not ending one. I slide the drive into my pocket, smooth the front of my blazer, and stand. The office hums around me, air vents, screens, whispers. All white noise now. Everything feels slow, suspended, cinematic. I pause by the glass wall, watch my reflection blend with the skyline outside. The city glows in the distance, tall, silver, indifferent. It's strange how much power hides in stillness, how much clarity comes after being silenced. Breathe, walk, deliver. I grab my notepad, not because I need it, but because it's part of the ritual. The appearance of preparation is sometimes more powerful than confrontation. People underestimate calm. They confuse it with compliance. I move toward the meeting room. The sound of my heels against the floor echoes, measured, unhurried. Each step lands like punctuation. At the door, I stop. My hand rests on the cold metal handle. The hum of the projector seeps through the glass. They're setting up. My pulse is steady. My breathing even. The faintest smile edges my lips. Truth doesn't need noise. It just needs timing. And my timing is perfect. If you've ever been overlooked or underpaid, this part's for you. And if you feel that, hit that. Sevens. The air feels heavy. The kind that doesn't move, even when people breathe. Fluorescent lights hum overhead, bouncing off glass walls and polished tables. Every reflection feels sharper today. Maybe it's just me, or maybe truth changes how light behaves. They're all here. The full cast. Same conference room, same faces, different energy. The air feels staged, like we've all been called back for a sequel no one asked for. The walls are too white, too polished. Even the glass panels look tense. The fluorescent lights hum a pitch too high, almost nervous, like they can sense what's coming. Someone's perfume lingers, floral, ambitious, the kind that tries too hard to be noticed. The boss stands at the head of the table, performing confidence like it's theater. His posture rehearsed. His grin painted. His suit too crisp for a man who sweats truth this easily. He adjusts his tie twice before speaking. Then he starts, voice deep and deliberate, slicing through the air like he's conducting an orchestra. As you can see, he says, clicking the remote with flair. Sevens, our numbers this quarter exceeded projections by sevens. There it is. The lie, dressed up in PowerPoint polish. Same script, same falsified glory. A narrative polished within an inch of honesty, and everyone nods like it's gospel. I sip my coffee, quiet, listening. It's warm, almost too warm, grounding me in the stillness of restraint. The hum of the projector fills the silence between his sentences. Heavens, a low electric purr that feels louder than his words. Each slide glows against the glass wall. Heavens, and for a brief second, my reflection flickers between graphs, calm, composed, unreadable. Someone taps a pen. Someone coughs. No one looks at me. Not directly. Anyway. They glance, then glance away. Vince, quick, guilty movements that say we know, without daring to say we saw. Even the intern at the corner pretends to type. Sevens, but her screen is blank, cursor blinking like a secret trying to hold its breath. The air shifts slightly when my boss pauses. He senses something, maybe the weight of my silence. He clears his throat, performs authority again. Sevens. But his tone catches, just for a moment. Sevens, and that single crack feels like prophecy. I sit back in my chair, steady. My fingers rest on the edge of my notebook, still, deliberate. They think I'm quiet. They think they won. But the thing about silence is, it remembers everything. And right now, it's remembering who muted me. But I don't hear them anymore. I'm watching the small things. The reflection of the slide flickering in his glasses. Deviance the tremor in his left hand when he gestures toward the numbers. Deviance the way sweat gathers just below his hairline, shining under the fluorescent light. He's confident, but not calm. Confidence without truth never is. Then he says it. The projector blinks. My screen takes over. For a heartbeat, no one breathes. Then, silence. Thick, stunned silence. On the wall, my report, clean, dated, time-stamped, every number correct. Every note accounted for. And at the bottom, in small, steady font, 7s, prepared by Kendra Morris. The cursor blinks in the corner of the screen like it's keeping time with my heartbeat. No one speaks. Not even the boss. He just stares, mouth half open, hand frozen mid-air. I let the silence stretch. Let it breathe. Let it do what I came here for. Inside my head, my voice is calm. I didn't need to yell. Truth speaks loud enough. Someone shifts in their chair. Someone else swallows hard. A coffee cup trembles, rippling the surface like a heartbeat underwater. The air feels different now, less controlled, more real. My boss clears his throat. He tries to smile, but it doesn't reach his eyes. Well, it looks like there may have been a versioning issue, he stammers. The word issue hangs there like a smoke trail, desperate, fading. I don't look away. My voice stays even, professional, almost soft. Actually, I say, there was clarity all along. 7s. Then I pause. Not too long, just enough for the words to land. The projector hums, the cursor blinks, and I meet his eyes. All I did, I add quietly, 7s, was unmute the truth. 7s. The room doesn't move. It just absorbs. My boss shifts again, his tie suddenly too tight. One of the directors adjusts her glasses, studying the screen like it's the first time she's ever really seen it. And then, almost imperceptibly, the CEO leans forward. His gaze moves from the report to me. Steady. Assessing. Respectful. That's the shift. Small, subtle, but real. The moment the power moves, from those who spoke over me to the one who refused to shout back. Inside, I feel it. That quiet release, that breath I've been holding for days. Not triumph, not vengeance, just truth finding air again. The boss mutters something about revisiting the data. 7s. No one responds. The room belongs to silence now. My kind of silence. I let the report stay up for a few more seconds. 7s. Then I stop sharing my screen. The light flickers back to his empty slide. Blank. Meaningless. The click echoes through the room like a closing door. I look down at my notebook, then back up. The CEO's still watching me. He nods. Once, small, deliberate. Message received. I straighten my posture, take one last slow sip of coffee, and whisper to myself, barely audible.
7s. This is how you unmute me. 7s.
The rest of the meeting drifts into noise, voices scrambling to fill space truth already claimed. I tune them out. I've already said what needed saying, without raising my voice once. As the meeting ends, chairs slide back, papers shuffle, footsteps scatter. But I don't rush. I gather my things with care, one page at a time. When I stand, the reflection in the glass catches me again. 7s. Same woman, same calm. 7s. But now, finally, they see her too. The door closes behind me, and the air changes. It's lighter out here. Quieter. The hum of the AC replaces the murmur of voices. The steady click of my heels against the marble becomes the only rhythm that matters. Each step feels released, measured, certain. I don't look back. Not once. Sunlight spills through the tall windows, breaking across the floor like a quiet applause I don't need to hear. The hallway stretches long and calm, framed by glass, steel, and stillness. The scent of brewed coffee lingers faintly, the same one that filled the meeting room hours ago, but it doesn't carry the same weight anymore. Someone passes me, eyes wide with that mix of surprise and new respect. A nod, a half smile, an unspoken acknowledgement. We saw what you did, but I don't stop for validation. Not anymore. Respect earned through silence doesn't need an audience. Inside, there's stillness, not the kind they forced on me, but the kind I chose. Grounded, solid, the kind of silence that hums with peace, not suppression. They tried to silence me, but silence has its own sound. It echoes differently when it's made of truth. It doesn't disappear. It resonates. When they muted me, they thought they'd buried my voice. But what they really did was give it room to grow roots. Deep, quiet, unshakable. I used to think you had to fight noise with noise, volume with volume. Now I know better. You fight noise with clarity. You fight deceit with precision. You fight doubt by standing so still that the truth has no choice but to reveal itself through you. My phone buzzes. An email. Subject line. Internal review. Update on team reporting. I already know what it says before I open it. A promotion. A formal note of correction. Recognition. I smile. Just enough for me. Because this wasn't about revenge. It was about restoration. About being seen accurately. I close the email, take a slow breath, and whisper, half to myself, half to the women who've walked this path before me. Sevens, for every woman who's ever been muted, this one's for you. Sevens, for the ones who stayed composed when every word was twisted. For the ones who double-checked their slides, their tone, their smile. Sevens, because being excellent wasn't always enough. For the ones who learned that grace is its own kind of rebellion. Keep your composure. Keep your receipts. Keep your light. You don't need to shout to be heard. Sevens, you just have to be right. Outside, the doors slide open and sunlight floods in, clean, golden, unapologetic. The city hums, cars, footsteps, a breeze cutting through morning air. I pause on the threshold, letting the warmth touch my face. The glass behind me reflects everything I've walked through. That room, those faces, that moment of stillness where truth unmuted itself. I take one last breath, deep, slow, steady, and step forward. Some victories whisper. And sometimes that whisper changes everything. Because at the end of the day, integrity isn't about being loud. It's about being clear. And in a world that often rewards noise, sevens, clarity is power. To every Black professional who's ever been overlooked, doubted, or silenced, sevens, remember this. Your calm is not weakness. Your truth doesn't expire. You carry power in how you choose to respond, with integrity, with patience, and with unshakable self-worth. Because real strength doesn't need an audience. It just needs alignment. Thanks for taking the time to listen to this story. If it spoke to you, hit subscribe and stay tuned for more stories that heal, inspire, and remind us who we are. For every Black woman told to stay quiet, speak anyway.